10 years ago, if you wanted a television that would still be running in a decade, you bought a Sony or a Samsung, and you paid a premium for the privilege. Today, two brands your grandfather had never heard of have quietly taken over the value shelf, and they are cross-shopped by almost every smart buyer in America. TCL and Hisense. Both cheap, both loaded with the features the big names charge a fortune for. Both promising you a premium television for budget money. But here is what the price tag will never tell you. One of them has become the single smartest amount of money you can spend on a television right now. And the other one hides a trap in its lineup that turns a bargain into landfill in about 3 years. And here is the part that catches people. It is not as simple as one brand good, one brand bad. Both make something brilliant, and both sell something you should run from. What decides whether you get a 10-year television or a 3-year regret is which model, in which tier, you walk out with. So today we settle it, tier by tier, from the cheap sets most people buy, up to the flagships that embarrass televisions costing 3 times as much. Not which looks best under the store lights, which one is still worth owning in 10 years. And real quick, because it decides who I am talking to for the rest of this. Are you Team TCL or Team Hisense right now? And how many years has yours lasted? Drop it in the comments. I read every one, and the pattern in your answers tells a story no spec sheet does. If a straight, no sponsor breakdown of the two value kings is worth something to you, hit the like button. It genuinely pushes this to the next person about to gamble a few $100s on the wrong set. And subscribe for honest TV advice with no brand loyalty and no hype. Every television I compare today is linked right below with its current price, so you can check any of them in a tap. And before we go tier by tier, the one longevity fact that matters most. Both brands build their good sets on a mini LED backlight, which means, unlike an organic OLED, they physically cannot burn in. Leave the same news logo in the corner for the next 10 years, and it will never ghost into the screen. On their good sets, both give you the durability that used to cost a fortune for a fraction of the price. The question is never the technology. It is which specific model got built properly and which got built to a price. So let us start where most people actually shop, at the bottom, with the budget tier, because this is where the trap lives. Under $600, both brands will sell you a 65-inch set that looks, on the shelf, like an unbelievable deal. And this is exactly where you have to be careful, because each brand sells two very different things at this price, and they look almost identical on the wall. Here is the honest map. Hisense's budget hero is the U6. TCL's is the QM6K. Both are real quantum dot mini LED televisions with actual local dimming, meaning they can control light and dark across the screen instead of glowing evenly gray. For under $600, and often a good deal less on sale, either one gives you a genuinely good, bright, durable picture that would have cost you $1,500 just a few years ago. On this tier, I give the edge, narrowly, to Hisense's U6 for one reason. It tends to run a little brighter for the money, which matters more than anything else in a normal room with some light in it. The TCL QM6K is right there with it, a touch better on some color, and if it is $50 cheaper on the day, buy it and do not look back. These two are the bargains. This is the smart money. And now the trap, because it is sitting on the same shelf, at the same size, for even less. Both brands also sell a basic, stripped-out LED television. No quantum dots, no real local dimming. The lights crammed around the edge instead of spread behind the panel. And the box will not say mini LED anywhere. It will just say a shockingly low price. That is the tell. If a 65-inch set from either brand is surprisingly cheap, and the box does not proudly say mini LED or quantum dot anywhere on it, you are not looking at a bargain, you are looking at the trap. Those are the sets built from the cheapest parts a factory can source, and they are the ones most likely to develop the dim patches, the blotchy backlight, and the slow, wheezing smart system by year 2 or 3. The cheapest television on the shelf is almost never the cheapest television to own. Buy the U6 or the QM6K, not the mystery cheap set 2 feet to the left of it. Quick question while it is fresh, and I am genuinely curious how many of you this hits. Has a cheap television ever died on you early? And if so, which brand, and how long did it actually last before it let you down? Tell me below. The graveyard in those answers teaches more than any lab test. Now up a tier, to the mid-range. And this is the sweet spot where most of you should actually be shopping, because the jump in quality from the budget sets is bigger than the jump in price. Here it is Hisense's U7 against TCL's QM7K, both landing around $1,000, both a serious step up in brightness and in the number of dimming zones, which is the real number that decides how close a mini LED gets to the perfect blacks of an OLED. More zones, tighter control of light, a punchier, more three-dimensional picture. And on this tier, the fight is genuinely close. Closer than the fan tribes in the comments will admit. Let me be fair to both, because they win on different things. The Hisense U7 usually comes in a hair brighter and a little cheaper, which makes it the better pick for a bright living room full of windows, where brightness is everything. The TCL QM7K tends to handle motion and its dimming a touch more cleanly, which makes it the better pick for a movie watcher in a darker room. Same money, 2 different rooms. If your television lives where the sun pours in, lean Hisense. If it lives in a dim room built for films, lean TCL. Neither one is a mistake. Both are the kind of television that would have been a $2,000 set 3 years ago. And both will take a decade of hard, everyday use without a single worry about burn-in. This tier is where the value in the entire market lives right now. And it is worth 30 seconds on why these 2 brands, of all of them, hand you this for so little. Because it is not a gimmick, and it is not a trick. Both TCL and Hisense make their own panels, in their own enormous factories. The famous premium brands very often buy their panels from someone else and add their margin on top. These 2 cut the middleman out entirely, which is exactly why a television that would cost $2,000 with a Sony badge costs a fraction of that with theirs. You are not paying less for a worse screen. A lot of the time, you are paying less for the same kind of screen, without the famous name marked up on it. That single fact rewrote the whole value end of the market in about 5 years. And it is why the old advice to just buy the expensive brand and stop thinking is quietly out of date. And then the top, the flagship war, where these 2 budget brands stop being budget and start openly hunting the premium names. Hisense's U8QG against TCL's QM8K. And I want to be clear about what these are, because people do not believe it until they see it. These are eye-searingly bright, deeply controlled mini LED televisions with hundreds and hundreds of dimming zones. Sets that go toe-to-toe with televisions from Sony and Samsung that cost $1,000 more. The Hisense U8QG, in particular, has become one of the best value televisions on the entire market, a set that reviewers put up against flagships twice its price and struggle to separate. Under $1,500, and it was on sale this year for a lot less, for a picture that genuinely rivals the best in the store. The TCL QM8K is its rival, and it is a magnificent television, often rated the slightly better set on pure picture, with even more brightness and even tighter dimming. But it usually costs a bit more, sometimes noticeably more, and here is the honest line that matters for your money. The QM8K may be the better television on a lab chart, but the U8QG is the better buy for almost everyone. because it gives you 90% of that flagship picture for meaningfully less. That is the whole game on this channel. The best television and the best buy are rarely the same set, and knowing the difference is what keeps money in your pocket. If money is genuinely no object, and you want the sharpest possible image, the QM8K. For everyone else who wants a flagship picture without flagship money, the U8QG is the one I would point you at, full stop. And two more places these budget brands quietly bury the premium names, because they matter more than people expect. First, gaming. If you or the grandkids play on a modern console, both TCL and Hisense pack in the high refresh rates and the low input lag that the big brands charge a real premium for, on sets that cost half as much. A budget television that games this cleanly simply did not exist a few years ago. And if there is a gamer in the house, this is where these two make the premium sets look silly. Second, and this is the big one, size. At 75 and 85 inches, where a premium set can run $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000, both of these brands will sell you an enormous, genuinely good mini LED for a fraction of that. If you want the wall to disappear, this is honestly the only sane place to shop, because at that size, brightness and value win, and the badge stops being worth the money. Just respect the distance, because a screen that big needs room to breathe, and a few feet more couch to look right. And one honest word on the smart system, because it is the half of the television everyone forgets until it lets them down. Most of these run Google TV, a good, familiar system with every app you could want, and some come in a Roku or a Fire version instead, which are all fine. The catch is the exact one we have circled all day. On the cheapest sets, the processor and the memory behind that smart system get cut so thin that the whole thing chokes and crawls within a couple of years, no matter whose logo is on the menu. On the mini LED sets we have actually talked about today, there is enough power under the hood to keep it smooth for years. And if a set you already own ever does slow down, the fix is a $40 streaming stick and a spare input, and the television is fast again. The panel outlives the software, and now you know how to outlive it right back. So who wins the war? On the budget tier, a narrow edge to Hisense's U6 on brightness for the money. On the mid-tier, a genuine draw decided by your room. Hisense for bright, TCL for dark. And on the flagship tier, the U8QG takes the value crown, while the QM8K takes the lab crown. Add it up, and Hisense edges the overall war on value, but only just. And TCL wins outright if your priority is the last few percent of picture quality, and you will pay for it. This is not one brand crushing the other. It is two brands that have quietly made the big names look overpriced. And the real winner is you, if you buy the right tier. But before you shop, the warning that outranks everything I just said, because it is how careful people still get burned. The danger with both of these brands is never their best sets. It is buying last year's model dressed up as this year's, or buying the stripped-out cheap line by accident. The model codes are designed to blur together on purpose. This year's set and a 2-year-old set can differ by one letter, and the old one gets sold at a not quite clearance price that feels like a deal and is not. So do the 30-second check that saves you every time. Before you pay, search the exact model code, letter for letter, with the year. Make sure you are buying the current set at a real price, not old stock in a new-looking box. 30 seconds of typing is the difference between the 10-year bargain and the 3-year trap. And one honest word on reliability, because I will not pretend these are flawless. TCL and Hisense have improved enormously, and their good sets now hold up as well as anything in their price range. But historically, as budget brands scaling fast, they have carried a slightly higher rate of early problems than the old premium names, and it would be dishonest not to say so. And it is worth knowing what actually tends to fail, because it is almost never the panel you are looking at. On a value television, when something goes, it is usually the power board or the backlight driver, the cheaper parts inside that you never see. And here is the reassuring part. Those are exactly the kind of failure that shows up early, in the first year or two, which is precisely when a store return window or a short protection plan is there to catch it. The screen itself is generally the tough part. The parts hiding behind it are the weak link, and they fail early or not at all. The way you protect yourself is simple, and it is the same for either brand. Buy from a store with a real return window, so a rare, bad unit becomes an easy exchange instead of a fight. On a value television, you protect the purchase. That one habit turns the small remaining risk into a non-issue, and it is why buying the right model from the right store matters more than the badge on the front. So let me give you the verdict that actually matters. And if this just saved you from the wrong set, that is your cue to hit that like button. For most people, in most rooms, on a real budget, the Hisense U6 is the smartest few $100s in television. Step up to a bright living room and the U7 or the QM7K is the sweet spot. And if you want a picture that shames sets costing $1,000 more, the Hisense U8QG is the value champion of the entire market, with the TCL QM8K right beside it for anyone chasing the absolute best. Both brands are real 10-year bets now, if, and only if, you buy the mini LED sets and skip the stripped-out cheap lines hiding at the bottom of each lineup. So tell me, honestly, before you shop, TCL or Hisense for your next television? And what is tipping you? The price, the brightness, or the picture that lasts? Drop it below and I will tell you straight which one wins for your exact room. Because here is the truth the big brands do not want you to sit with. The most expensive television in the store is almost never the one that gives you the most life per dollar. These two proved it. Buy the right tier from the right brand, and you walk out with a decade of great picture for the price the premium names charge for a year of their badge. And next time, we settle a different fight. Not which television to buy, but where to buy it. Amazon versus Costco, because one of these stores quietly protects your set for years, and the other leaves you stranded the day it breaks, and the gap between them will genuinely surprise you. Hit subscribe so it finds you, and I will see you then.